Hi, guys.
Hello, hello.
How's it going? Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, it's a huge honor to be here on the Canon stage. I know it's bright and early for some of you guys, Vegas time. So we appreciate you guys rolling out of bed and making your way here. We've been huge supporters, admirers of Canon kind of since our inception point. Back in high school in the late 90s, I got my first Canon Rebel. No small part thanks to those awesome Andre Agassi commercials back in the day.
You guys remember those?
Yeah. And then going all the way forward to like 2009, 2011, sort of the DSLR revolution, which Canon was certainly at the forefront with all their full frame sort of cameras that really kind of revolutionized how we kind of thought and saw wedding films. So yeah, we've just been big Canon people, and we're just honored to be on the stage here.
Yeah, we've been using the 1DX Mark II for the past several years also, and amazing camera, and it's just a huge part of our kit. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later. First, we're sculpting with time. I see some very familiar friends and faces over here. So you guys know about us, but for everyone else that doesn't, we do about 15 weddings a year, and then we save the rest of our time for some commercial and doc work. We like to keep really fresh and just creatively inspired. A few recent projects of note, we just got back last week from filming J.J. Watt's wedding. He's an NFL player. I don't know if we have sports fans over here. Alex is massive football fan.
Shaking in my boots, but got over it a little rather quickly.
Yeah, and we recently filmed a wedding some of you guys may have seen where it took place in 3 different countries in 10 days. It got featured on national TV because it was just a totally different type of wedding. And then as well, we were featured and recognized by Harper's Bazaar as being a top wedding filmmaker in the world. I'm sure some of you guys are photographers and you've probably eyed that list for a while, but it's the first year that Bazaar has done something specifically for filmmakers. And I think it's just a sign of the times that video is becoming so much more prevalent and so much more important. And it's something that's really at the forefront. And yeah, there's a power and something so compelling about video that's very, very different. And so that's kind of what we're going to be talking about this morning. And we're going to start with a little example about the power of video.
Yeah, this will take just about 45 seconds. It might be a little strange or boring for you guys, but bear with us. It's an old black and white film, and I'll kind of explain the significance to you shortly thereafter. So you're probably wondering, why are you at 10 a.m. watching a train roll into a station with a bunch of people with funny hats walking towards the camera? This was one of the first films ever shown by the Lumiere brothers at a theater in Paris. This was part of the first screening that ever took place. The Lumiere brothers are credited as being the inventors of the motion picture camera. And in this screening was a writer from Russia, Maxim Gorky, and he documented sort of the experience. And basically, as this film showed, half the audience ran to the back of the theater. They were afraid that the train was going to run through the wall and destroy the whole theater. But that's sort of an exaggeration. I think a lot of people were also just mystified or blown away by the idea that this new medium could teleport you into a sort of dream-like world. And so this was sort of considered the birth of cinema. And I think symbolically, it really just shows the sort of power that this medium had and how it could transport people to literally another world. And so I like to kind of look at this moment and how people reacted to it as just sort of exhibiting and showing what this medium could do to an audience. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the reason why we showed that.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about today, guys, is just the power of video because we all know it's becoming more and more prevalent in our daily lives and the type of media consumption that we have. You know, print publications are closing their doors in favor of online usage. People stay more engaged in sites and in content that includes video versus just imagery and text alone. And so it's just something that is inescapable. And because of this, a lot of photographers are starting to include video to offer to their clients, whether it's a service that they do or it's just a simple video on their landing page or behind the scenes videos that give potential clients like a different insight into who you are as an artist and just as a different way to connect on potentially a more personal level. And so, you know, everyone gets into video in different ways. And we're going to kind of start by talking about how we journeyed into this world and kind of a little bit about our background.
Yep. So I sort of began my sort of love story with cinema back when I was like 8 or 10 years old. I would make scripts and movies with my GI Joes, just kind of how to rescue GI Jane, that type of stuff. Kind of a lover at heart even back then. But yeah, I got into video production in high school as sort of a marriage of different mediums, you know, being a writer, writing poetry. My brother was a music producer, so sort of marrying sound and writing and then photography. It just became this marriage of all these different art forms and kind of being a disgruntled, you know, teenager looking for a form of self-expression that really just helped me find like sort of my voice and was kind of therapy at the same time. I did a few films in high school. They gained some notoriety. I got a scholarship to the San Francisco Art Institute. Ansel Adams started the very first photo department in the United States back in the 1920s at the San Francisco Art Institute. And so it became synonymous with sort of groundbreaking kind of pioneer photographers and filmmakers. And it was really kind of an experimental film school and sort of a wear many hats. So we kind of learned, you know, everything from sound design to lighting to being our camera operators. And so it was an easier transition going into being an independent filmmaker and kind of doing everything on my own, coming out of that environment. Whitney, on the other hand.
Yeah, I studied painting in school. I went to school in New York and studied fine arts. And I've always been just a multidisciplinary artist where I get excited creatively by a lot of different mediums. And I naturally am just very curious. And it's exciting to have that creative expression come out in different formats. And so for me, when I started doing video with Alex, it was this really natural progression because painting and photography, the foundation is the same as video. We're working with composition and lighting, and we're image makers. And so for me, it was a really powerful transition. The immediacy, the power of film was really, really exciting in a way that painting just was not. It was super laborious, my painting process. And so, yeah, video became a new outlet for me that really allowed me to fully express myself in different ways, including movement, including storytelling. And it's exciting.
Yeah. So what you're seeing kind of in the background as we're talking are just a lot of stills from our work, whether it's weddings or commercial stuff or documentary work. But yeah, so we got into weddings, I think basically, 2011. And I was living in San Francisco. She was living in Houston. And I moved back to Houston to get closer to her and decided I could still do sort of my brand films commercial work on the side. We would start doing weddings. And there's some work with JJ, if you guys know who he is, JJ Watt. Anyways, so we started doing weddings, and we just loved the challenge. Like, a lot of my art school snobbery friends were like, you're doing these museum biennial pieces, and you're going to move to Houston and do weddings. And I was like, honestly, if you think about it, these two people, have kind of searched their whole lives for each other. They've made countless decisions that have impacted their path. And here they are, generations before them, every choice that they've made. And here they are standing under this one roof, like committing themselves to each other for all of eternity. And it's all happening real time, no script. And there's a beauty, a rawness, a realness to that But there's also, as a creator, there's a challenge. And it was fun, like trying to figure out how to document that in the most artistic, creative way possible without being able to do retakes, without being just having a controlled environment. So we really took to that challenge and really took to the challenge of like trying to find our own voice using our background and start trying to push the boundaries a little further, break rules, knowing all the rules, but being willing to break them. And just slowly over time developed a voice that we felt confident with and comfortable with.
Yeah, and so maybe on this note, we should watch a little film or two. We're going to be watching just some 1-minute teasers, whether it's just just a teaser or it's the first minute of a film. We'll give a few different examples of some wedding and commercial work. One of our goals is to always make just totally unique and unforgettable films for each client or each couple, and we really want each piece to be distinctive. So hopefully we'll see some of that today, and we'll talk about each film as we go.
Che avuta, chiaratarata, scordando giù passare, si menava la paesa. È ritornato a Napoli, dopo 10 anni a Broccoli, Pasquale americano, ballando il mambo all'italiano. Hey, hey mambo, mambo italiano, hey mambo, mambo italiano, go, go, go. You make up Siciliano, all you calabrese to the mambo like a crazy one.
As we're in Italy and we have so many Italian guests, I thought it appropriate to try out my Italian. Per Unival, Danielle, Adam, Neroni, Celebroni e Matrimony, Benevuto, grazie.
Tella sta compagna vostra, che giù perduto sogna fantasia.
So yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks, guys. So this was a wedding that we filmed in Italy last year. This was actually a really cool film because this won the Grand Award for Filmmaking here last year at WPPI and won the Bill Herter Award.
Yeah, the Bill Herter Award is the film that has the highest score overall in both the photo, print, and filmmaking competition. And it's the first time that a video ever has won the Bill Herter Award in the history of WPPI. And so that's something we're really proud of, not really just from a personal level, but from a filmmaking level, just that we were recognized filmmakers on the same level and as the photography community. So it was really just like a proud moment, I feel like, for us as filmmakers to be recognized on that same stage and not just seem as like an afterthought to the photo and printmaking competition. Mm-hmm. Personally, though, this project was really interesting because the bride was a producer for the BBC, and she had a very distinct vision and concept for how she wanted her film to be.
I don't know if you guys have worked with other creatives, but it can be like really exciting collaborating with them, and it can also be a challenge, right? Because they have a high level of standards, maybe a really specific way of doing something that doesn't always align with the way you would automatically want to approach something.
And she said she had spoke to a few other filmmakers and that, you know, they were not comfortable with compromising their style, their aesthetic to fit within her sort of vision. And when she came to us, you know, we said, oh, that's an interesting concept. It's not necessarily how we do things. They wanted something really bright and lively and just energetic, no posing, just very
Zero
raw,
interaction.
real. If there was, you know, water bottles on the ground while she's getting dressed with her, you know, beautiful dress in this, I don't know, 17th century, you know, old, what would you call it?
Masseria, like a farmhouse in Italy.
And she didn't want anything moved. Like it was just supposed to be as real, untouched, and just raw. And so we just basically said, yeah, if we were doing a commercial project, you know, the client would want to direct and produce things, and we would have to fulfill their vision. So we said, you know, why not kind of adapt our style, adapt our approach? And in the end, it created a result that would not be something that we would typically shoot. It was very different from our aesthetic and style, but it allowed the couple's personality to truly shine And I think a lot of times you want to put your couple into a formulaic box, and you end up losing a lot of their soul and a lot of their personality, which is what makes them unique. And so this is a good example of a lot of our work, that we really try and bend our style and our approach into certain various concepts that really fit our couples. And so if you go to our website, there isn't sort of a uniform look. You'll recognize certain things in all of our films that you'll say, oh, that's Sculpting with Time. But you would also be like, oh, I really like this film, but this film doesn't really fit me. It's very different. So it opens up a lot of doors because it's so genre-less that someone can find something they like, on our portfolio, and I think that's to our benefit.
Yeah, and basically we're still starting all of our films with the same kind of foundation. There's certain techniques and certain tricks that we use in every single one of our films, whether it's a commercial film or a wedding film. We're doing a lot of time lapses, we're doing aerial shots, we're doing free lensing, speed ramping, slow-mo, gimbal work. We're doing all of these different tricks, but we're using them in really specific ways. Like Alex is our editing whiz here, and the way that he's able to delicately use different tricks and techniques is a pretty amazing thing.
I think the key for us is just not overusing anything too much. I think people kind of rely on certain cruxes, like, oh, I'm going to use slow-mo a lot, I'm going to use speed ramping a lot, I'm going to always start with a drone, or always do this. But it's sort of the selectively trying to balance all those elements that keeps everything fresh, and it keeps your audience kind of on their toes and not knowing what's going to happen next. And I feel like once you get rid of that element of surprise, at least for us, and you just have that repetitiveness to your work, you lose that element of surprise, and you lose the ability for your audience to be truly captivated and swept away by the flow of your work, and the less chance they're likely to kind of watch something to completion.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, the element of surprise is something I want to touch on. The next film we're going to show you a bit of is a little different for us. It's going to be a totally different type of couple, a totally different type of vibe than the Italy film that you just saw. And we took some risks on this one that were pretty successful, and that maybe you don't see in wedding films all the time. And we'll let you be surprised by seeing that as well. So let's start this up. This was a wedding at the Breakers in Palm Beach last year.
Mi corazón, mi polo a tierra. Prometo ante Dios amarte, cuidarte, honrarte, defenderte y serte fiel hasta el último de nuestros días.
Welcome to Palm Beach. Welcome to the XT Vibes Party!
Let these rings, Agimena and Timot, remind them of their love for each other. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. From every human being that rays a light that reaches straight to heaven. And
Different, right, guys? It's just kind of touched upon. This is just the first minute and a half of this 5-minute film, but we did something a little different here, and we kind of filmed a boudoir sequence with a couple, which, in the photo world is something that you guys have been doing for a while. And it's like, super sophisticated and beautiful and intimate, but it's not something that people have really incorporated into wedding films, because seeing a bride and groom in their underwear is not something that we think of when we think of wedding films. But it was this risk that we took. For each one of our couples, we either like to do like a video chat in advance of them so they feel comfortable with us, or we just do some like research on the back end. And I like Google people and I look at their Instagrams and their Facebooks so we can get a sense of who our couple is and what type of vibe they're going to be giving us on a wedding day and how we can maximize and play with that.
Yeah, so she had a lot of sort of Instagram model kind of stuff on her page, and it felt like it might be appropriate to kind of pitch them on that concept, and they were really into it. So it felt, really fitting for them. But nothing is off the table for us, whether it's potentially doing a boudoir shot or like using 24 millimeter macro, probe shots that like are going through a Bible, and then, the drone shot goes into the Breakers Hotel. So just any potential trick or idea or concept, we're all for. This really felt like a party. Like that was the main thing about this event, was just they wanted to throw a huge spectacle of a party. So we really tried to play that up in their film and, choose a musical track that would really have a lot of transitions and stuff for us to play with sonically, but as well to really just bring a lot of energy to the film and allow us to do a lot of dynamic cutting and editing to really play up that vibe.
Yeah, because, we're always trying to stay fresh as artists and just as like human beings. We want to have a fun time. We want to be inspired. We want every film we do to feel like it's our new favorite film. And so being able to set the like reset button when we're working on things so we don't feel burnt out or we don't feel like we're getting stuck in some box has been really important to us. And so doing different types of work, not just weddings, is like very instrumental in us staying inspired and just getting to travel and do different things. And so we'll show you one or two little snippets of commercial or doc stuff now. The first film we're going to start with is a very personal project for us. It's for the Alan Watts organization.
Yeah, so we filmed a wedding in Singapore and Indonesia about 3 years ago. And we decided to use Alan Watts' audio on it. He's a philosopher from the 60s based out of Britain, then moved to the US shortly thereafter. And, we were really big in the idea that if we're going to use any audio, we need to try and license it. And so this narrator, we researched him and went to his sort of organization website and, hey, can we license some of this audio that was that you did in this lecture in the 60s? And so his son is now running the organization. And, after making the connection, the wedding took place in this old Buddhist temple, one of the largest Buddhist temples in the world in Indonesia. And he was like, wow, I'd love to be able to maybe incorporate some of this footage that's not wedding related, that shows the Buddhist temple and stuff like that, into sort of a spiritual kind of tapestry of like the human spirit type of thing. We're launching a new educational platform, and we'd love to have this video attached with the release of that platform. And I was like, well, we film weddings all over the world. We could use some of our B-roll from various locations. And if you could get us to actually travel to maybe India and Cambodia, one or two other places, we could really make this a really diverse, dynamic film that really shows off and pairs the beautiful words of Alan Watts with these sort of Nat Geo-esque imagery. And so we just sort of parlayed this seemingly, was not an opportunity into this really great project. So with video production, anyone you interact with could be a potential client. And so you're always opening a door. Everyone has a story to tell. Everyone has, if they have a brand, they might not know it, but they need a story to tell their brand story. So yeah, it turned out like we had all these connections. He went to the same art school that I did, and we just kind of hit it off. And a week later, we had a ticket to India and Cambodia, and we were starting off on this project that had us shooting in over 10 countries, and it as well won the Grand Award for WPPI filmmaking 2 years ago. Yeah. So we'll just show a little snippet of that.
Yeah.
If you awaken from this illusion and and you understand that black implies white, self implies other, life implies death, or shall I say, death implies life, you can feel yourself not as a stranger in the world, not as something here on probation, not as something that has arrived here by fluke, but you can begin to feel your own existence as absolutely fundamental. What you are basically, deep, deep down, far, far in, is simply the fabric and structure of existence itself. In Hindu mythology, they say that the world is the drama of God. God, in Indian mythology, is the self, Satchidananda, which means Sat, that which is, Chit, that which is consciousness, that which is Ananda is bliss. And in other words, what exists, reality itself, is gorgeous. It is the plenum, the fullness of total joy. And all those stars, if you look out in the sky, is a firework display like you see on the 4th of July, which is a great occasion for celebration. The universe is a celebration. It is a fireworks show to celebrate that existence is. Wow-wee.
So yeah, like we were talking about the lead into this had us traveling to over 10 different countries. And as filmmakers and photographers, when you think about traveling for gigs, like it can be kind of intense because you really have to be thoughtful about what gear you're taking with you, because you cannot lug tons of lens kits and Pelican cases with you. And you don't necessarily want to be walking around certain countries, third world countries, with a whole bunch of expensive camera gear. And so we are very, very thoughtful about what equipment we take on each specific project. And there are one or two things that are in our kit that we heavily rely on when traveling.
So just to be clear, everything you guys have seen so far has been exclusively shot on the Canon 1DX2. We use that camera primarily for about 3 or 4 different reasons. We first started using it in 2017 when it first came out. But the DPAF dual pixel autofocus, which you guys are all probably pretty familiar with at this point, is crucial for us, for our work. Because for video, you would be racking focus or you'd be using a follow focus, especially if you're doing gimbal work. But you know, the DPAF is just so intuitive, so fast, so immediate, and really allows you, especially for me, I do a lot of telephoto gimbal work, so I'm shooting at like 100 millimeter full frame, and I'm like running around my subjects to kind of create these like really strong parallax movements, like where you have the background like really shifting. And I could not do that type of work at all unless I had the DPAF dual pixel autofocus. As well, the 4K 60p on the 1DX2 was really revolutionary when it came out back in 2017. And there's still camera companies that are like trying to catch up and still haven't implemented 4K 60p in 2020 to their cameras. So that's huge for us, as well as the Canon color science. That's the closest thing to like true, you know, Hollywood kind of cinema cameras and what they're offering, and you're not really struggling trying to like shift the color to like get it to be skin tone accurate and things like that. So those are kind of like a lot of the main reasons that we're using the 1DX2, but as well from a lens standpoint, this film you just saw here was pretty much exclusively shot on the 24-105. You know, it's an incredible lens as far as its range and versatility. If you want to get intimate, you know, really wide shots up close and personal or landscape-based stuff, but as well, it allows you to not be intrusive, to catch stuff from a distance, and to have that flexibility in your focal length so that you're not trying to grab in your lens bag and get another lens out because you want a 50 or you want to go to 120 or whatever. And in that fraction of a second, that moment might be gone for this type of work. So it's really about that kind of fleeting and frozen moment, and always like being ready and always being able to capture it, because this isn't the type of stuff that you can go up to these people, like this monk right here. I don't know if you can, yeah. He pulled out his camera, he's on another boat next to us. And that was a moment that had I not captured it properly, it was never going to happen again. And so yeah, the 24-105 is a huge lens for us in this type of environment, but as well, it allows us to be discreet, which I think is equally as important for this type of work.
Yeah, like walking around foreign countries, it's pretty awesome when you just have one camera around your neck and one lens, and that's it. You're not opening up your gear bag, showing off so much money and equipment. So it's huge for us, and it's something we always travel with.
Yep.
So we'll watch one more little teaser here. It is a personal project again. We are from Houston, Texas.
Do we want to skip that time-wise? Do we want to skip that?
No, I think we're okay.
Okay.
Sorry. So this was a really personal project. We're from Houston, Texas, and Hurricane Harvey hit Houston a couple years ago and created total devastation. Our city was entirely underwater, and we saw all of these people contributing and helping each other in ways that were really, really small, like just going on Facebook saying, hey, I will do laundry for anyone that needs it so you have clean clothes to live in. Or people doing really big things like J.J. Watt raising $50 million for relief efforts. And so for us, we realized that our gift and our contribution would be filmmaking and telling these stories and preserving these stories, because we were having such an emotional reaction to everything going on around us. And we wanted to be able to preserve that so people could see it and remember how much beauty came out of this tragedy and devastation.
Well, there's a lot for our city to kind of heal, like it needed to heal, and this was kind of a cathartic process. It had over 3 million views, within like a week or two of it being released. And I just think it was really, it's probably the thing I'm most proud of, not because from a technical level, but just because it felt like it was contributing something larger to our city, and became this kind of stamp or put a bow kind of on everything that like everyone could rally behind this film and be like, yes, this is Houston, this is what we are part of. And, it'll live on long past, our careers as filmmakers. So something we're really proud of, and just something to kind of remember that like we as storytellers have a very, very powerful gift. And sometimes we forget, when we get wrapped up in sort of the economy or, what we're doing it for, the money and everything, but that, we have this very powerful gift, and we have to remember that it can really transform people's lives in various ways and really provide like a really healing power, or tell these stories that really need to be told, whether it's nonprofits or environmental stuff, things that wouldn't get out there into the public sphere if you weren't willing to use your talents to really tell these stories and share them. So, sometimes it's a passion project, sometimes it's just something you feel like needs to be made, but that really has the ability to like fuel your creative spirit and just kind of inspire you again. Because it's easy as artists, like you rely so much on your creative energy, but it's not a renewable resource. Like we get tired, we get depleted. And so sometimes you just need something that re-energizes you and reminds you of the power of what you're doing. And this project did that for us.
We have 1 adult and 5 children. Is someone in the area? Please go get them.
7825, code 6.
As the pressure continues to drop,
conditions here are just getting worse and worse by the minute.
This is a new tornado warning, and as these tornado warnings start to pop up,
We have been praying for quite a while now for the eye to pass over so we can get some kind of complaint.
preparations today, the state is not out of the question today.
Hurricane Harvey devastated the city. It did a lot of damage, not just to homes, but to people's spirits.
Just hearing the rain and it not stopping, and starting to see the images of how much water was coming into people's homes and flooding the streets.
It's going to be life-changing for so many of us, but the work is so vast and the list is so long.
This is our country, our people, and I can't see it getting destroyed.
How do you impact somebody that has had their house flooded, had their cars flooded?
We said to hell with profits and let's take care of the people. Black, white, brown, it doesn't matter. These are my people and I gotta help my people.
It's just everybody coming together, and I think it's a way for good to come out of a tragedy.
Hurricane Harvey showed us just how great the city of Houston really is. It produced heroes from very ordinary people.
And we're going to rebuild together. Love is stronger than water.
So I think this film for us was just a reminder of the power that video has to make an impact in people's lives, and the power of storytelling, and how just stills of this would have felt very different than the kind of emotion we were able to capture and convey just in the people's voices that you hear. And so this project, obviously, from a logistical standpoint, we were filming every single day. You know, the water was subsiding, and it was a very fast thing that we had to start capturing. And so we would just go to other sides of town. We wouldn't see each other for like a week straight, right?
Yeah, we just split up and would just talk to each other kind of every night, and we just each be following different stories and trying to capture everything while it was still happening. This, again, was primarily shot on the 24-105. You know, I'd be like waist up in water, you know, trying to get certain shots or capture certain stories. And so it was a really challenging project to kind of take on, but something, you know, that we're really proud of. So I think at this point, we'll just kind of move into a little bit of our gear kit, because I know
everyone always wants to know, like, what are you shooting on? What lenses do you use? So we will indulge that curiosity as well.
So yeah, we're primarily using Canon 1DX2 like exclusively, but we use kind of two 780-200s for our weddings. We use the 51.2. That's a crucial lens for us because of the, you know, bokeh that it creates and sort of how the background just kind of blurs out for our portrait work. We use the 24-105, as you can see there, but the red ring has been taken off of that because when we're in the sort of slums of third world countries, we kind of just try and be as discreet as possible. So we kind of camouflage some of our gear a little bit. Let's see, what else do we have there? The 12-24 is a nice lens, especially if you're shooting Super 35. So you just kind of able to capture some of those wider moments. And the 24-70, which I exclusively use on the gimbal. And at Super 35, that becomes like a 35-100 full frame, more or less. And so I really love being able to shoot 100 millimeters on the gimbal with the DPAF at 4K 60p. And it just gives a look that is unrivaled. And has been kind of synonymous with our brand and our style.
And, you know, Alex touched on it earlier, but the autofocus has been huge. And I don't know if everyone here is mainly doing weddings, but like weddings are a non-controlled environment where a moment happens and it's gone. You don't get retakes. You don't get to have the time to set up a shot or to direct anything necessarily. And so, you know, when you have your lens on your camera and suddenly you see something happening over your shoulder, that's like this beautiful touching moment. You've got to be able to turn around immediately and get that tack sharp in focus. And that's not always possible to do, but having that autofocus and literally just being able to tap the screen and then your moment is golden and it's captured, in that split second really has made a huge difference for us and the content that we're able to capture.
Yeah, and I think what's unique too is that, you know, we got the 1DX2s in 2017 and they were ahead of the curve then. But I feel like when you're buying Canon, when they release a new camera, you can feel confident that that tech is going to be ahead of the curve, you know, for the next 2 to 3 years. It's not like camera companies, they incrementally, you know, release 1 or 2 minor little additions to their camera, and you're like, oh, I need to get this because they added 1 feature. No, when they release something like the R5 that's going to be coming out, or the 1DX3, it's light years kind of ahead of what else is out there, and you can feel confident that this is going to be a camera that I'm not going to lose on my investment, and that I'm going to have, for a good 2-3 years and be ahead of the curve.
Hmm. Yeah, and we're excited to go get our hands on some of this equipment and tinker with it after this presentation as well, because it's something we've been looking forward to for a while.
Yep.
So anyways, yeah, just to kind of circle back and bookend our talk about just the power of video and the way that you can make an impact. Hopefully some of these videos were inspiring or compelling or kind of got you thinking about the way that you react to video in a different way than just imagery or just text. And we had a few just little stats we wanted to close out on that just kind of felt like really bold examples to us of how people interact with video in a different way.
Before I get into this, I think it's just pretty amazing that, like, if you're a photographer, you have these cameras and you maybe don't know that you have this capacity, that you can be telling stories as a filmmaker. But it's the same camera. The 1DX2 is a great stills camera. It's one of the best there is in the world, if not the best. But that you could be still doing all this sort of video production work on the side, or just, creatively engaging yourself and trying new things and seeing, what you can do as a storyteller. And so I think one of the things that's really powerful about video is the engagement level, is that your audience is immersed in your story for 2.5, 3 minutes. And that's priceless as far as like a conversion rate for a potential client, that they're scrolling on your feed or they're scrolling on your website, and there you have their attention, which you're advertising your brand or your company to them. And that you don't have that with photography, or it's just different because they might scroll or they'll read some text, but you don't have that. They're locked in and, just reading into they're buying your brand as with their time. So I think that's pretty amazing. So this stat, by 2022, online videos will make up more than 82% of all consumer internet traffic, 15 times higher than it was in 2017. So, the amount of consumption of video by our audiences is just growing astronomically. This wasn't possible or wasn't happening, 5-10 years ago. And just the rate at which it's showing up in our social media feeds, the algorithms and how they're set up to primarily share videos is everything.
It's exponential.
Yeah, it's growing at an exponential rate. And it's just good to kind of think about that, keep that in the back of your mind, and kind of be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, Alex just touched on it, but on average, people spend 2.6 times more time on pages with video than without. You just have that full locked-in attention, and there's really so many ways that you can capitalize and maximize on that.
Viewers retain 95% of a message when they watch it in a video compared to 10% when reading text. Like, you think about just how you get an instruction manual, you're not going to read the instructions. It takes forever. It's confusing. It's complicated. You get
Never
on YouTube,
reads instructions. Never.
You get on YouTube and you watch a simple video that takes 30 seconds of your time, conveys everything in a really simple, organic way, and just there's a efficiency to getting your message across, and there's simplicity and getting your message across. So it's just a lot more useful of a way to tell your story one way or another.
And maybe one final last stat is we are definitely living in a social media world, guys. So social media generates 1,200% more shares than text and image content combined. I think it just kind of goes to that level of engagement, that level of personal connection and interaction that you have with people. And it's not going anywhere. And so whether you start incorporating more video to promote yourself or as actual services, or you're just further refining and honing your skills, or thinking of new outlets and ways to use video to promote yourself and your business.
Or you just want to tell better Instagram stories.
Totally. It's a powerful medium, and hopefully this has gotten you kind of jazzed up about furthering your journey into it.
Yep. That's pretty much it.
That's it, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Anyone has any questions?